Welcome back to On the Brink. Every fortnight, we speak to accomplished founders and industry experts about the fine line between breakdown and breakthrough. I'm Shailene, and today I'm so excited to introduce Noorhan Al-Zan, the founder and CEO of Noor Consultancy and Coaching. Noorhan has extensive experience in financial services, coaching, and mentoring, having worked with over 400 startups in 6 countries. She has also spent more than a decade in treasury and investment roles and now focuses on helping businesses and individuals grow. It's great to have you on the show. How are you, Noor?
Thank you, Shay. It's wonderful to meet you. And thank you so much for having me.
Of course, we're so excited to pick your brain a little bit. So let's just jump right in. So you have had a long and successful career in financial services before you transitioned straight into entrepreneurship. So could I ask, what was the turning point that made you decide to start your consultancy and coaching business, and how your experience has shaped the foundation of who you are as an entrepreneur?
That's a lovely question. Thank you for asking. So it's about COVID time, I believe, when everything went on lockdown and we were staying at home. And I got all these kind of like self-awareness and asking myself all these really important questions about what I want to do with my life. And at that point, I discovered that while my career in banking was very rewarding, I wanted to build something that was impactful, not just for me and my career, but I also wanted to help a lot of people. And I wanted to do that in the best way I could. And additionally, at that point as well, I wanted to give myself more room to do more of what I wanted versus the rigid structure, perhaps, that comes with the banking sector. And so, really, that was my turning point. And if anybody's listening and they think it was an overnight decision, it was not. It took well over 2 years to kind of really think about it and decide that this was the right time for me to leave. I took some time to travel, time to think about what I would do if I was going to help as many people as I could. And then I decided that my coaching and consultancy business was the way to go. And that's how the story started.
I love that. I think it's so refreshing when somebody's story is I mean, that doesn't sound like a movie. You know, the fact that it took 2 years for you to finally arrive at the conclusion, and also it was such practiced thinking. It was a very careful decision. It's something you don't see in the behind the scenes of an entrepreneur's journey.
There's a lot of also maybe misunderstanding that a lot of people think that entrepreneurs kind of like, pack up and jump into a business or whatever. But I know a lot of them on this side of the world that really think it through, and they try as much as possible to build something that works for them, that works for the ecosystem. It took me a while to take that decision, but I feel that that story also is the story of other entrepreneurs in the world. So yeah, but I'm glad you found it helpful.
Absolutely. I mean, as someone who has successfully transitioned from a corporate career to entrepreneurship, and someone who's, you've supported so many startups already, 400 startups, I do want to ask, what are the key differences in mindset and skills required to succeed as a founder versus working within a large financial institution?
And most definitely. So I think when you work in I'll talk about the banking sector because that's where I come from. So in that sector, you're required a lot of kind of discipline and you're required a lot of structure, and you kind of know what you need to do to a certain extent with the job, right? But that mindset completely swapped when I got into entrepreneurship because you immediately have that structure that just disappears. And now you are in some sense trying to work and shuffle many different things, make sure different parts of the business are working. And at the same time, you need to have your brain always comfortable in being uncomfortable, right? And so you go from that standard routine to the non-standard. And this is something that I shared with a few people. I think on my first day of not having a full-time job and like kind of being in the business, which is more than a full-time job now that I think about it. But on the first day, I was used for so long that my alarm rings at 6 a.m. And so the first day on my business, I didn't set the alarm to 6 a.m. I'm like, let's see what that happens. And I woke up at 6 a.m. and it almost was a panic. It was like, what do I do with my life now? What have I done with my life? Like, I'm so used to that routine. And so I think one of the important things, which is very different, is being able to accept that not every day looks the same, being able to set up a different routine, but also having your mindset towards accepting that there are a lot more challenges and that you're not part of this structured organization when you have someone to escalate to and someone to back you up and someone to cover when you're sick or whatever. And so kind of that resilience mindset, if you'd like, I feel is the real thing that I've noticed. And definitely
Yeah.
the drive. I feel there's a lot more drive that comes with being an entrepreneur, in my opinion.
In a company, as an employee, you have all these guardrails, right? All these things to keep you in check, keep you in line with whatever the project or the goal is that you're working on at the time. But I guess, especially when you're starting out as an entrepreneur, you need to set those guardrails for yourself. And you also have to be the person who holds you accountable while also actioning everything. So I think resilience is an understatement, but absolutely, it's definitely a common trait in the entrepreneurs I've spoken to. What were some of the toughest challenges that you faced early on while you were building your consultancy and coaching business? And how did those challenges shape your approach as a leader and a mentor?
That's incredible. So I'll take you back 2 years when the business started. And I feel like there are two parts when people perhaps or entrepreneurs can relate. The first part was being able to manage yourself. So this is something that a lot of people know about me when I first started. You want the business to succeed so much. So you lose kind of all elements of time. And so you're working at any hour, you're looking after your client whenever that needs be. And at some point, you come to a point when you're close to burning out, right? And I feel that that's something I learned on year one, which is things need to be structured and planned. Yes, it's not a financial institution. It's a startup or a small business, but at the same time, you're going to need to put that structure because you need to take care of yourself because that's how the business thrives. But additionally, managing as well your mental health and how you feel because again, if you feel like uh, there's a lot of challenges at the get go, and so you want to be able to get all of that things working, and so it puts a lot of pressure on your mental health. And I felt at that time that when you talk to other entrepreneurs, when you have a bunch of mentors who've been through this before. And now what we're doing with startups in the market is you're able to kind of say, it's been done before. It will happen again. Just don't let it take over your life. In terms of the business entering the market, and that's generally anybody would feel the same way, is we went to market and we assumed that we want to go in with six full products and services. So we're in the service industry. So six fully fledged services. And we had done so much of the research, and I've been in the market for a very long time. And so it's that market entry, what we like to call go to market, that I think perhaps was
Yeah.
one of the most challenging bits because you need to then hear a lot of feedback from your clients and be able to be so quick and so adaptable and change and also get your pricing well suited per country in every region that you work in. So it's kind of getting that go to market fixed right while being able to manage yourself, I felt was the most challenging point at the start.
Funny if I do think you're one of the first to highlight that the actual go-to market, of course, it's the day that every founder sort of builds up to, right? Of course. So in terms of holistically taking care of yourself, your team, all the things that need to be done, I can only imagine the pressure. So do you feel like that eventually became easier? Like you got the swing of things in a sense?
Oh, absolutely. I think the first 6 months were the most challenging. And obviously, you also put a lot of pressure on yourself on saying, I need this to be successful, which is natural for everybody. But come the first 6 months, you've worked with enough clients. And we were very, very blessed with an excellent first 6 months. Like we've landed a large corporate to work with us on month two. And that was massive because that helped us really go steps forward. And we're very, very grateful for this organization till this day. And basically, let's say the first 6 months, we got a lot of feedback. We heard a lot from our clients. In 6 months, you kind of already established a routine, a structure, a way to run the business. And so it kind of really calms down from then. Now, you have always have kind of like waves when you're introducing a new
Yeah.
service, when you're working with a new client, when you're jumping up those steps, like we've worked with pretty big giants in the region. And so every time there's kind of like a level up, if you would think about it, and that comes with its own challenges. But I would say we're at business as usual most of the days.
That's amazing. So, in your experience working with startups, what are some key mistakes that you see founders make often, particularly when it comes to approaching fundraising and things like that? And do you have any advice for how they can avoid those
Oh,
pitfalls?
I love it. This is like my favorite topic to speak about the startups, no doubt. So let's first talk about like general pitfalls. and then fundraising
Yes.
pitfalls. I feel like at the start, people are taking those decisions around, I need a co-founder or an advisor, or I need to work with someone. And so it's almost like they don't take that decision with so much importance, which needs to be there because you're going to end up working with these people for a very long time. And building a startup is very different than working in a company together with a colleague because you're both going to see the best and the worst parts of your character come up on most of the days, right? So you need to know that you're capable of working with these people, but more importantly, you need to know that they bring the right skill set to the startup. So, for instance, if I was really good with numbers and I was really good with investment, I feel like I would need to get someone who's really good on the legal side, someone who can fill that
Right.
part for me. Or if this startup was, focusing on tech, I'd need a tech person because I'm not a tech person. So that's
Mhm.
like on the team side. And I feel that that should not go unnoticed because wherever the startup founder is in the world, they should look for the right talent, especially in the co founding stage. Now, on the fundraising side, I always say, first, you really need to ask the question of, do I need to fundraise now? And I feel like the
Yeah.
general concept is I built a startup. I have my, ducks in a row. I'm going to go fundraise. So I asked the question like,
Mm.
okay, what are you raising the funds? We're raising the money for our MVP. Now, on this side of the world, we're very, very blessed with a lot of grants. We get a lot of grants for early stage startups. There are a lot of startup competitions when people can go in and win cash amounts that can help them build their businesses. So I go like, well, if it's the MVP, then you're looking after maybe a small ticket in terms of the money you're trying to raise. So do you need to sell equity? So the first question
Yeah.
is, do I need that? And so when they
Mm.
answer this question, the question is, yes, I need money. And I cannot get that from one of the available grant options or startup competition or pitch nights that we have a wealth of in the Middle East, or at least in the GCC. Then comes the second question.
Mm.
Okay, how much are you trying to raise? Because everybody comes in and says, and this is like a number that I hear so often, I'm trying to raise like a couple $1 million or like $500,000. Like, yeah, why? What are you going to do with the money? Because it's not just about taking money from investors. It's the investors going to come in and want to expect certain outcomes, and you're going to be accountable for those outcomes and those KPIs. So not only do you need to answer, do you need the money and how much do you need? Because that affects your valuation and affects how much you're going to sell or how much equity you're going to give away from your business. The third thing is there are a whole range of investment products that are now available, right? And we've seen that grow as well on our side of the world between safes and convertibles and equity, or even if you're looking to get advisors, we've got the sweat equity element. So we've got a whole range. So you need to know the right product that suits you as a founder, something that's founder friendly, and at the same time
Yeah.
understand the terms more. So in my sense, I feel if you get the team in check, then you actually, in terms of fundraising, you don't just raise for the sake of raising. You raise because you need it, and then you do it with the right tools, the right product, and last but not the least, and this is going to be with all respect to all investors around the world, one mistake is you just go for the money and you don't pay attention to the investor that you're onboarding. And the investor,
Yeah.
like your team, you have to have a match of energy. You have to have a match of background. You have to have understanding that you guys can also work together. But if I'm going to get an investor in my business, I want an investor who's bought in. But again, that depends. Some
Yeah.
guys tell me I don't need someone who's going to work on the business. I don't want someone involved. I just want him to be a silent investor. Okay, then you need to look for that investor type. Or some of them say, I
Yeah.
want an investor who has experience that he can bring on board. So in that sense, you need to be
Mhm.
looking for that. But that energy check is also very important because
Yeah.
it's not just about getting money. It's also getting the right kind of money in the right quantum with the right product or the right, let's say, instrument that allows you to be
Yeah.
comfortable, but allow your investor as well to be comfortable when they come on board.
That is very, very poignant and very helpful for our audience. Thank you so much for talking about that. So, I do want to ask, you've touched on cultural differences already in this conversation, but how would you say cultural differences influence your message? I'm sure that you've become quite a good code switcher, if that makes sense. So, what universal leadership traits do you also think all successful entrepreneurs share, regardless of where you've been in the world?
Lovely. So, when I was younger, I felt like cultural differences were setting us apart. And then the more I
Mm,
worked with a lot more people, and I've been blessed to work with a lot more people, I find that we have so much more in common than we have different, believe it or not. Like on a surface level, we're going to look different. Maybe we speak different languages. Maybe we'll believe in different things. But fundamentally, I
mm,
think at core, we have so much more in common. Now, bearing that in mind,
yeah,
I discovered that I never change the message because if I believe in a message, I'm going to say the message. I just might
yeah,
say the message differently. So, for instance, if I was
yeah,
using an example out of in Bahrain that might not perfectly align in Saudi, it will just be adjusted to be more suitable for the market. So, it's more about if I wanted to communicate something to you, my main mission is to support you, to help you, but also I want you to get my message. So, I'm going to say it in the best way
yeah,
that suits you or works for you. But we never really change the message because I feel people get it. Maybe just we wrap it a tad bit differently. Now, in terms of leadership traits, leaders are meant to be strong, right? They're meant to be tough. They're meant to
yeah,
all of that. Now, my awareness has changed that drastically. I think leaders need to be grounded. I think leaders, no matter where they are, they need to take a deep breath in and they need to have that mentality to say, maybe I don't know it. Maybe it looks like it's all blowing up in my face, but I am going to figure it out. So it's that kind of a constructive mentality, for the lack of better words. The second thing, I
yeah,
feel I come from a school that says leadership is kind. Because if someone's on the top or someone's leading something and they are using that power and the authority in a way that doesn't make people feel good about themselves or doesn't make the team feel like they're part of that mission, then to me, that's not necessarily leadership, or it could be a form that I just don't resonate with. So now I feel like leaders are grounded, leaders are aware that they can solve problems and in my school, leaders are kind.
yeah. Definitely an underrated trait of good leaders is somebody when the tornado is swirling around the whole team, the leader needs to be the eye of the storm in that sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, very well said. We are nearing the end of our conversation. So I want to ask, you worked with Brink as part of your consultancy. So could you share a bit about your experience with collaborating with Brink? I know that obviously I'm in the Hong Kong office, so you would have worked with the MENA office. Tell us a little bit about that and how it aligned with your work supporting startups.
Oh, fantastic. So Brink does a great deal of really good work on the regions. So they run programs, at least in Bahrain and the Oman as well. I worked in Bahrain, Oman, and I got another call from the UAE. So in the region, they focus a lot on early stage startups. At least this is the work that I have been focusing on. And so they kind of bring them in, they run the boot camps, they run the demo days, they help them through mentorship and pitching and stuff. So I helped or I worked with Brink in my capacity as part of training the startups on the financials, the investments, and the fundraising, and also being one of the mentors that supports them with tidying up their financial models or tidying up their kind of work that they're doing before they pitch in the demo day. And I feel that
Mhm.
aligns greatly with a big subsection of the work that we do in the company because we also love to support early stage startups. And we feel like in the region, we have excellent ideas. Now we're just trying to harness those with the right training and the right skill set to allow them to create strong businesses. So I really feel like we have a program here, particularly that I'm very fond of. It's called Mashroui, and that's Arabic for my business. So that is also a project that I would recommend to a lot of people to take a look at because it's been graduating really, really good ideas and really, really good entrepreneurs.
Fantastic. The ecosystem in MENA right now, in the MENA region, is fantastic. So I'm really stoked that I finally got to speak to another little piece of it with you. So I do have one last question before we move on to the games portion of this chat. And that is, do you have any news about your company, Noor Consultancy and Coaching, that you could share with our
Yeah,
audience?
of course. Your audience is very friendly. We've seen that on YouTube. So great to be announcing a bunch of really good entrepreneur focused initiatives. And we're going to, in fact, you're the first for us to tell. And additionally, hopefully in the next 6 months, we'll be announcing a really, really good solution as well, a tech based solution to support the entrepreneurs in the region. Because, like you rightly said, Shay, we've got a wealth of talent on this side of the world. And I know you're based in Hong Kong, but hopefully when you come to Bahrain and you can see one of the sessions, it's power driven, it's full of energy, and it's just absolute brilliance in the making.
Amazing. That is so exciting. And congratulations on these developments. We can't wait to hear more about it. Please do share it with Brinc so that we can help support circulation in that news. Super exciting. Now it is time to play On the Brinc's quick fire segment. It's called Madness or Greatness. So your task is very easy. It's just to judge each scenario is either madness or greatness. So number one, investing heavily in marketing before the product is fully developed.
Madness. Madness because your product is what you're going to market and you don't want to confuse your customers. And your customers are super valuable, super important. And building the trust with them is a make it or break it. So I would create a product that fits my customer. I'd know my customer very well. And then I start talking to them. So I think that's absolute madness.
Second, prioritizing rapid scaling, even if it means temporarily sidelining core product development.
I'd have to call that madness as well, because you said the word core product. Core product means this is the main solution that you're offering to the market. So that takes me back to the first point on how do I scale something that I don't have? And scaling for me is growing at reduced costs. And so if I don't have my product sorted out, how can I actually scale it while not wasting a lot of valuable resources like investor money or my time and energy or the team's creation and innovation?
Next is refusing to pivot despite market demands and sticking to your vision.
Madness. So at the start, I was convinced that the services that we had are, top notch. The market was keen on 3. We were keen on 6. 6 months later, we're like, you know what? The market wants 3. We want 3. We became the best at those 3. So I think if you're in the market for the market, you're in the market for the customer. Listen to the customer because the customer is going to save you a lot of time and money if you listen carefully.
Fantastic. Number 4, scaling internationally before securing local success.
That's an interesting one. So the go-to answer would be it's madness because you'd start from local and then you'd go international. But I have seen a lot of founders say that their local market is not their focus market, and their focus market or their product they realize doesn't really work locally, but it could work very well somewhere else. So I think between what is it that they're trying to achieve? Are they trying to be local players as well? Then that's madness, because if you secure local support, it's a nice way for you to scale. But if the local market wasn't your focus, then maybe that is not what it is for you, because some products just don't work in certain countries and they work very well in other regions.
Focusing entirely on product innovation, even at the cost of delayed market entry.
Nice. I would say that's greatness with keeping like 3 red lines under the word of delayed, right? Because I don't want to keep building without testing and getting some sort of a validation and hearing back from the market. So I would say I'm proud that you're investing so much on innovation, but I come from a school that says we want lean startups. We want startups that test the market. We don't want to jump onto the deep end of the pool, but have all our, scuba gear. We want to be able to swim. So I would go in, test the market, come back to the shore, adjust, go back, come back. So I would feel it's greatness if it's done in a kind of organized way. But if you're stretching it over the edge, it might cost you a lot of peace.
Thank you so much. That's all we have for today. So thank you so much, Noor. Before I let you go, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would like to thank you and the Brinc team for having me. I'd also like to say hello to anybody who watches. This is us from Bahrain to the rest of the world. We're very pleased to be with you today. And Shay, I'm watching your growth and I'm very excited to see where you're going to go with this podcast. There's so much valuable insights to be shared here.
Thank you so much, Noor. You've been such a delight. To find out more about Noor Consultancy and Coaching, please visit noorcoaching.com. And to learn more about all the other amazing founders and mentors in Brinc's ecosystem, head to brinc.io. And don't forget to subscribe for the next episode of On the Brinc, now available on YouTube and Spotify. See you next time.